Hello, my name is Lisa Bush, and I'd like to welcome you to the Affordable Integrated Municipal Software webinar. Right now, everybody should be looking at my desktop. I did want to let you know that I've got everybody on mute. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to take yourself off mute, or you can send me a text. So let's take a look at what we're going to cover today. The agenda is we're going to talk about the integrated solution that we offer. We've got over 30 different integrated products. Everything works together. You're able to implement the different areas on your time frame. You have the ability, if you want, to post in detail so that you can be in the accounting system and actually see customers that were billed from utilities, invoices that were sent, employees that were paid. So all that detail, you're going to be able to see that along with the journal in the general ledger. And as I mentioned, you can start building one database of names and addresses. So as you get a call from one of your constituents, you can look them up and see everything about that person. You can see their tax bill, their utility bill, do they have code violations, building permits, animal license, cemetery plot, and the list goes on. So you can start building that one database of people and properties. We have the exact same view by address. You can see all of the transactions that have happened at a particular address. So it is tightly integrated. You implement the products on your time frame. We're going to spend the first part of the presentation looking at our true fund accounting solution. It's designed specifically for small to medium municipalities. You're going to be able to track all your funds in one integrated database. At any point, you're going to know budget availability. You can get warnings, if you're paying your vendors or if you're issuing purchase orders, so you can have it warn you or have it stop you, and it is very tightly integrated in with all the other products. We're then going to branch out to the utility billing product. This solution allows you to bill for unlimited metered, non-metered, and non-recurring charges. It is a true cycle billing, so if you've got customers that move in or move out mid-cycle, we have the ability to prorate those non-metered charges. We're going to take a look at how you can email bills, payments on your website. That's all included in the utility billing application. And then at the very end, we'll take a look at some of our general government products so that you can see, you can easily add building permits, code enforcement, and just by knowing the name or the address, you can see all the different relationships. And at the very end, we'll take a look at our report designer, which is a tool that allows you to create any type of reports so that you can literally pick and choose fields from the database to create inquiries and reports. So we'll finish off with that. I wanted to go ahead and pass on my contact information. So if you do have questions after the presentation, feel free to email me or certainly call me direct. And with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the software. So I'll turn off my camera and we'll jump directly into the software. Okay, here we go. This is the main screen that you're going to see when you log into our software. As I mentioned, we've got 30 different integrated products. You pick just the ones that you need for your organization. We're going to start with the dollar sign, and these are our different financial components. Even within this area, you can pick and choose which products do you need for your organization. A perfect example is maybe you've made a decision you want to outsource your payroll. You wouldn't have to license that piece. So even within this area, if there's certain functionality that you don't need, you don't have to license that product. We're going to start with the heart of the system, and that's the general ledger. Literally everything will flow to the GL, so you're not having to do those manual journal entries. The look and feel of all of our products are the same. The way the menus are set up or things you do daily are under the daily tab. Things that you do more of a once a month, once a year, those activities are under the periodic tab. We're going to have a separate report, a tab for reports. We do keep unlimited history. All of the reports you can email, you can go to Word or Excel, so you've got that Microsoft feel. We're going to look at some inquiries today. All of the products have inquiries. You can keep unlimited history. We're going to give you the ability to drill down and see that detail on how things flow to the general ledger. And then last but not least is where we have the tables. And this is where you define things like your chart of accounts, your recurring entries, in accounts payable, your vendors. That all happens under tables. Once you set your tables up, you're not going to spend a lot of time there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the general ledger. We're going to take a look at where you would enter in a journal entry. Keep in mind the only time you're going to do this would be things like beginning entries, adjusting entries, or any time that you just need to debit and credit things coming in from utilities and courts and tax and payroll. We're going to create those for you. So this is those miscellaneous entries that you might need to do from time to time. Now, if you look at our toolbar, it's like any other Microsoft product. Those icons mean the same thing. You can also, within the software, very easily log a support call. You just hit the telephone. It knows exactly the product you're in, the menu option, type in a question, and let us know if you prefer a phone call or an email, and it's that easy to get help. You don't have to stop what you're doing and call us. You can keep moving forward and document that call. Now, a couple of key things here. This is a date-driven system. We have the ability to post to any period. So as an example, today is October the 6th. If I need to post that, let's say to April or January, I've got the ability to do that. You have the ability to lock it down so that you can't post. You have the exact same flexibility on opening a year and closing a year. So if your year ended September 30th and you want to close it today, you can do that. Let's say your auditors come on site 8 weeks later, you can reopen that previously closed year. So it is very easy. You can lock it down that only certain staff would have that ability. Now, a couple of other things. We're going to make sure debits and credits equal. So we're not going to let you post this transaction if you're out of balance. Even when you're doing entries that are crossing funds, we've got the ability to do that as well. And we do have the option if you need to track grants or projects that last multiple years. You simply define what it is, so you give it a name, and you can have different tasks, different categories, and this gives you the ability to send any distribution over to the projects. We can accumulate those for as long as you want. It could be a weekend, it could be 5 years, so that you can print a financial statement on all those costs, or there may be some revenue as well. So that's integrated so that you're not having to set up those projects and grants into your chart of accounts. And one other thing I want to point out is we do have something called recurring entries. So we have this available for journals, purchase orders, and payables so that you can create a template once, select it, make any adjustments, and post. So it keeps you from having to remember those set accounts, and it works for dollar amounts and for percentages. So if you're paying the phone bill, you want to go ahead and enter in the total amount, it'll do the math for you. So with that, we're going to give you the ability to look at transactions before you post or after you post. So in this example, we'll look at something that we've already posted, and maybe I want to see for a certain period or a certain date the entries that came over from a payroll run. So I can very easily see that information, all of the reports. You can print to the screen, you can email, you can go to Word or Excel. So once again, it's just like a Microsoft product. So moving on to periodic, this is where you're going to do things like create your budget, close your year, maybe reverse something, those things that you might do periodically. Now, what I thought we would do first is take a look at the different ways that you can create your budget. Most of our clients like to use Excel, and they actually use Budget Excellence to export their history to Excel so that as they're creating their new budget this year, they're going to be able to base that on actual information. So I'm going to go ahead and export out, 1 year's worth of history. You could do the export multiple times if you want to see multiple years. You can do certain types of accounts, revenues, expenditures, maybe a certain fund. I'm going to go ahead and just say, let's just grab everything and drop it to Excel. So in just a second, we're going to have the option to go back to the accounting software, or we can go directly into Excel. And let's go to Excel. And on my toolbar, that workbook is going to be dropped right here, and we'll open it up. So what I have here, I've got all of my accounts for all of my funds. I've got the budget for the previous year. I've got year-to-date actuals. I've got projected numbers because it's in the middle of the year. And then I've got by month actuals, where we've completed that period. So I've got some pretty good information to create my new budget. I've got all the flexibility of Excel to do increase, decrease, or any way that you want to format that, but you're going to go through that process. Once the council says, we're going to approve this, we have the ability to import from Excel that approved budget. So we're going to simply bring in those dollar amounts so that in the general ledger for all of those accounts, you've got budget amounts so that as you're running your financial statements, as you're doing inquiries, as you're paying your bills, you're getting that budget comparison. So that is intuitive to the system once you import it. Now, if you don't want to use Excel, we do have the ability to create worksheets, and you can just key in the amounts, or we can do things like across the board changes. But like I said, most of our clients like Excel, but if you've got like a small chart of accounts, you can very easily key that in. We're going to track it the exact same way. Now, we do have the ability to do budget revisions. So if you've got a situation where you need to track moving the budget, why did you change it, increase, decrease, or you're moving it to, different accounts, we're going to track that. We're going to track the reason why you made the change so that we can run reports to see, what was the original budget, show me any changes and compare it to the actual so you can see trends. So we will track those transactions. Now, if you do need to reverse something, I've got an easy way to do that. If I don't know the transaction number, I've got a search. This search is going to work the same for all of our products. Tell me what you know. All of these fields, you can enter in limited information. So in this situation, I'm going to say we're going to search something that came over from payroll, and I'm bringing in all those entries. Now, granted, I probably would know date or dollar amount, but I did a pretty high level search, grabbed this one. And if this is the transaction that I want to reverse, I simply hit post. The system makes the offsetting entry. There's an audit trail. So it's very forgiving if you do make a mistake. One other thing I want to point out is we do have a wizard to close the year. You can always reopen the year. So once again, it works with you as you're closing out your year, waiting on your auditors. We've got the ability to open and close that year as many times as we need to. Now, reports for most of the organizations that we deal with, these financials get them exactly what they need. I'll point out a few here, but keep in mind the report designer, we're going to give you the ability to pick and choose from all the fields to create those exact reports that your organization needs. So first of all, if your organization needs to track purchase orders, I've got the ability to run this expenditure, encumbrances, and appropriation. So you can see, what you've spent, outstanding purchase orders, and then comparison to budget. Now, one that everybody's going to run for their board meeting is our statement of revenues and expenditure. And keep in mind, it could be for the original budget or the revised. So if you've made changes, we're going to ask you, do you want to have a previous year comparison there? How do you like to see the remaining budget, percentage or dollar amounts? You can always change your mind. You can run it for any year, any period. And then once you also have the ability to slice it out based on your chart of accounts. So keep in mind, all of your funds are in this accounting database. So if I only want to pull that out for maybe the general fund, I can do that. Or I could have sliced it out by department or certain accounts, and that's how I've defined my chart of accounts. Yours can be different. We've got up to 9 segments, and each segment can be as long as you want, but we do have that ability to slice out those reports based on those segments that you've defined. So in this example, I've got revenues, I've got expenditures, and once again, I did it just for one fund. I could have done it for just the police department, but you're searching one database. I talk to a lot of clients that come from products like, Sage or QuickBooks that's really designed for a small business where they have to set up different companies to track their different funds. This is all in one. So you're not in and out of those different data sets. It's designed to do what you need it to do. And like I said, I could go to Word, Excel, etc. Now, another one here, I could do a balance sheet for one fund. I could do a combining balance sheet for all funds or maybe a range of funds. I've also got this historic budget report that, maybe I want to run that for a range of years and I want to see things like, what did I budget? Did I have any changes or any revisions and compare it to the actual? So once again, I'm able to see trends. Maybe we're always under budgeting for like the tax, the property tax revenue or something like that. So this is a good tool to look at as you do that process. Now, inquiries. Let's take a look at some of our inquiries. We've got some really good ones. One is, let's take a look at this example where maybe the only thing I know is I'm looking for a journal entry. It's got $25 in it, and that's literally all I know. I don't know where it came from. I don't know when it happened. So I'm kind of looking for a needle in a haystack. I can search. And let's go ahead and grab this first one here. So here's an example where I'm paying the copier lease. This transaction started in accounts payable. And if I want to know more, I can hit display source. So here I can see, the vendor, the invoice, the PO. If I keep drilling down, I can see that I've got an attachment. So in this situation, when I paid that invoice, I attached the actual invoice. We give you the ability to attach different files. And this feature is available in most of our products. So you're no longer filing, it stays right here. I can even see the status and once again, the accounting distribution, where I allocated this to multiple funds. So that's one example. Let's take a look at this one. In this example, I'm going to look up an account number and maybe I know it's a revenue account and I know what fund it's in. So I'm kind of doing a partial search. So the list will be shorter. And what I want to do is take a look at where we've done our utility billing. A lot of the clients that we deal with look at our accounting and the billing because they're so tightly integrated. So one thing you could do here is, I might want to see detailed transactions for this year. I could look at any year. And in this scenario, these are all the billings that I did in our utility billing software with the unique bill ID and, the total credit, and I can see that. We take it a step further. I'm going to go into February and I can see that one billing. I'm going to double click on it. And here's the journal that we create when you do the billing. And a lot of vendors will do this. We're breaking out, the water, sewer, trash, tax, all those things that you're billing for and how it flows to the GL. We take it a step further. As an example, if you want to see the detailed customers that make up that journal, here it is. So I'm not having to leave the accounting to look at it. I can look at it here without having to go over to the billing system. So the same works true for payroll and courts and all those other applications that we have. You can drill down and get that detail. Now, here's another example. And this is where I can look at any month and any year and I can see the highest level, which are my funds. So let's take a look at the general fund. And here I can see a breakdown by department for expenses, revenue, fund balance, and assets. So here I can see maybe on the admin, here's the budget, here's the balance, and here's the year-to-date activity. If I double click, I can see detailed transactions, receipts at the counter, payroll runs, journal entries that I've created. So let's take a look at a payroll run. So just like we saw before, here's the journal that we're going to create after you do a payroll run, breaking out all those key accounts because I'm able to, break that out very easily. And if I want to drill down, I can drill down and actually see specific employees and I can see, a summary of their payroll. Now, if I want to see specifics, I can also double click on any employee and actually see the check stub. So I go all the way to that detail that I'm able to see that detailed information. So that's an example of posting in detail, drilling down to get that detailed information. And you're able to do that on all those different entries that are flowing into your GL. So once again, lots of inquiries, tables, as we talked about, that's where you set things up one time. Typically, once you do your tables, you're not going to spend a lot of time there. Now, typically in this setting, I don't cover purchase orders, but I do want you to know we do track them. We do encumber the funds. It will create a purchase order. We even have the ability to have up to 4 levels of people that actually approve that PO before it moves on, and encumbers the funds. So if you need it, we have it. You certainly don't have to implement that. We have a lot of clients that just start with the invoice and key it in. So let's take a look at that. And so here I'm going to look up an example I've got. And this is where you're entering in those invoices. So a couple of key things. One is you can have a vendor that deducts it from your checking and you just record it. You're not doing a paper check. You can also have certain vendors that you've set up that you want to pay electronically. So instead of them getting a paper check, they get an email and then we create a file that you just send to your bank and the bank moves all the money to the different vendor's account, but they automatically know, hey, it's going in the next day. Now, if you're trying to pay the same invoice to the same vendor, we're going to stop you at that point. We know you've already paid it. You can also note separate check. You might have a situation where you've already received one invoice. Later on, you get that second invoice and you can check separate check because that's what the vendor requested. So we're not going to automatically combine those if you did separate check. Now, in this example, the invoice is $2,000. Down below, we're going to allocate it to as many different accounts, as many different funds, and I can send that vendor one check. If you notice, the remaining to distribute is 0. So if you've got $1 that you haven't distributed, you're not going to be able to complete this. So you've got to completely distribute that. One other thing I do want to point out is if you are using purchase orders, all of that accounting flows. You're not having to recode the accounts. You're just confirming that, yep, the PO matches the invoice and going forward. We also have the ability to create fixed asset records. So if this is a truck, we can create a pending fixed asset and then you can do the depreciation. So if you need that capability, we do have it. And then once again, here is that recurring. So you're going to have a lot of recurring payables. So you've already created the template and you're just entering in the dollar amount, if it's a percentage, or it'll default the accounts. You can even have them default the accounts with set dollar amounts. So it can be as smart as you can let it. Now, we've got those entered in, and most of our clients, there's some sort of an approval process, and they'll have like a board meeting. So in that example, I would probably run this council approval report, and I can sort it, maybe the council likes to see it by fund, through what date, and we're going to gather up all those payables that you've entered in and produce this report so that you can get approval before you do the check run. So here, as you can see, I've got everything here and I can take a look at who I'm paying, when is it due, dollar amounts, and I even get that budget comparison. Now remember, if you want to turn on this feature, you can have it give you a warning or stop you in accounts payable if you are over budget, but this is going to show you as well. Totally up to you on how you want to do that. Now, if everything is fine and you're ready for the check run, maybe there's a couple of changes you need to make, you can still do that. One change might be, maybe there's a certain invoice that the board, we're not going to pay this $15,000 one tonight, but it's still in there. It'll pick it up the next time. You can even do a partial payment. Maybe they only want to pay 10,000 of the 13,000, so we can leave that remaining 3150. It's sitting there the next time. So once again, you can still fine tune that before you go on and select and print those checks. Now, we also have an easy way to void checks. And keep in mind, each menu option, you can lock it down so that only certain staff can do certain things within the product. So, I might be able to run the approval report, but I can't void checks. You can lock it down at each menu option if you want to. But you're going to see tons of reports, lots of inquiries. I'll show you one that I like here. And this is an example where I don't know the vendor name or number, but maybe I know the vendor starts with an A, so I can do a partial search. I can do that pretty easily. Now, I could have also done a search in the middle. Maybe I know the vendor has the word office in the middle. I can do asterisk, office, asterisk. So I'll grab everything that has office in the middle, or supply at the end, asterisk supply. So that wildcard search works the same in all of our products. So I'm going to grab this particular one here. I can see all the checks. I can see the invoices that it paid. If I double click, I can see the detail. I can see the status of the check. And because there's a paper clip, I know there's an attachment. So, you know, I'm not having to go to the filing cabinet. It's all right here. Now, to me, the toughest part of your job is bank reconciliation. And we do have a nice tool called Cash Control that allows you to easily reconcile your accounting software to your bank statement. It's going to do a couple of key things for you. One is it's going to actually create your deposit transactions. Let's say I'm going to the bank and maybe I want to grab everything from the front counter. I'm doing a deposit for that. Or I could do it from courts or utilities, but I can also run all those through the front counter. So once I make that decision, it's going to bring in all of those detailed transactions. We've already recorded everything in the accounting system. We're just creating the deposit slip. So I pick the bank, I can select all, I can deselect, but if I hit post, it's going to create a deposit transaction and it's going to print a deposit slip. Now, I do have the ability to do a split deposit. So if I've got one of these checks and I need it to go into two totally different bank accounts, I can do that as well. So we've recorded it, and when you reconcile your bank statement, you're going to have one central place that you're going to be able to see all those deposits, all those checks you've issued, and we're going to also pick up journal entries that affect the bank statement. So journal entries for wire transfers or recording bank fees. So we're going to pick those up as well. And when you're finished, it's going to create a bank rec report that's perfect for your auditor. There's other reports here. I can reprint deposit slips. I could run a report for a date range and see what deposits I've had. I can do a check register here, and I can even include payroll if I want to see it that way. And I've even got a bank statement. And then there's this one inquiry that I like. You're able to look up by bank and see all those detailed deposit transactions. I could click on any one of these and see detailed, what made up the checking cash that made up that deposit. So once again, everything's here. You can drill down and get that detailed information. Now, one other area I want to point out before we jump over to some other products, and that is our cash receipts. Think of it as a centralized point of sale. It gives you the ability to receipt for anything and handle the money once, and it prints a receipt. So let's take a look at how that would work. So first of all, somebody walks in and they want to pay their utility bill. I'm going to go ahead and hit UB. If I know the account number, I type it in. If I don't, here's that right click. It brings up the search for utilities. Do I know their name, their phone number, their meter ID, their social? Lots of ways to look that person up. I'm just going to grab somebody here, and it looks at utilities. Is this the right person? Here's how much they owe, and we bring in that balance. They can pay it all if I accept it, or maybe they could do a partial payment. I'm going to say today they're paying the whole thing. Now, at the same time, maybe there is a miscellaneous, maybe you want to do some sort of a permit and all on the same receipt. And you can have set dollar amounts, different dollar amounts, and I can keep adding on. So I could pay my court citation, an invoice that they've sent me, all of that. I could pay my neighbor's bill. And when I'm ready to tender, I can have check and cash on the same receipt. I can do credit cards. So we have an integrated credit card solution so that it prints what they sign, it stores the authorization number as well. So I've got that capability. I can also do things like, um, maybe in this scenario, somebody walks in and they've got one check. I can look up everything by just knowing their name. So here I can look up by name. Somebody says, I've got one check. What do I owe you? And I can search. And in this scenario, I'm bringing in all the balances. So the tax bills, the utility bills, the invoices. The one thing that we do separate courts is like a separate database. So I could bring in all those other ancillary balances and then, do the court receipt. But by looking at, just by knowing their name, I can see any invoices, any utility bills, any tax bills, and look at all those, even if they've got multiple properties. So once again, it gives you the ability to handle the money once. It will print a receipt. It's going to update all the appropriate products within the system. There are reports. So if your auditors want to see, show me everything that you receipted, one day 10 years ago, I can get you just those transactions. Or maybe you're looking for a certain miscellaneous type. You can sort it a lot of different ways, by the receipt number, by the type, which would be your check, your cash, your credit cards. So lots of ways to slice and dice how that appears, in the system. Now, one other thing that I do want to point out is, we do have a payroll system. I typically don't cover that here, but just so you know, we do handle unlimited pay types, deductions, benefits, taxes, tightly integrated to the GL. So if you've got employees that work out of different funds and different departments, I can very easily track those transactions. So if you need to see it, we can set up a time. I've also got videos that I've created on that. So lots of different ways. Now, one other thing I want to point out, another way to get money into the system, we looked at, receipting it through cash receipts. Let's take a look at how it works on our website. So your customers can go to your website. They can easily, make payments. I happen to be one of your customers that just received an email because I have a new utility bill. And as soon as I click on the link, it takes me, and this would be your portal, your name, your logo. Your customers know they're at the right place. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And if I want to view and pay my bills, as you can see here, I have 2 different accounts. I could have, maybe 5 or 6. And on any one of those accounts, I can look and see every bill that's been created. I can print the bill. I can view the bill. If I want to, I can pay the bill right here. So if I pay it now, it brings in the balance. We give you the ability to accept any type of credit card. It calculates the convenience fee so that you're getting 100% of your funds, and all these payments are integrated. Now, you might even have customers that, maybe they didn't sign up to get their bill emailed, but they can still go to your website, click on the link, and then they could pay, other transactions. So one might be your utility bill. The difference here is, since the bill wasn't uploaded, I'm going to have to type in my account number, and I'm going to type in how much I want to pay. and it still works the same way. It calculates a convenience fee. Your organization gets 100%. They have to accept it. It's a calculated convenience fee, so it's 3% plus 35 cents, um, typically less than what they would pay, for a penalty or to turn the service back on. So it just gives them a way to use a credit card. You're not a merchant, but all those payments are very tightly integrated into things like utilities, our tax billing, our courts, our AR modules. So once again, that's another way you can get money directly into the system. Now, what I thought we would jump into next is the utility billing. Exact same look and feel. Let's take a look at what we can track on your customers. And I'm going to bring up a customer here. Once again, if I know any little bit, parcel, meter ID, account number, phone number, tell me what you know, I can limit the search. And we'll go ahead and bring up Lucy. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a true cycle billing. You can have multiple cycles, you could have one cycle, but we do handle those move-ins and move-outs, so you could do finals every day if you wanted to. So once again, multiple cycles. You can define different class of customers, and I can get you balances and reports based on class of, consumption and balances based on this. You can have different statuses. When you go live, most of your customers are active. I can have new customers. I can automatically create service requests based on status. So I know with a new customer, a final customer, and a transfer, I need to create a service order to go get the reading. That can happen automatically. I can have an on and off status, maybe for a landlord. I can have customers that are inactive and I'm still billing, or inactive and I'm not billing. If they come into town, they try to sign up again, you're going to know there's a balance. You're not going to lose that. And keep in mind, I can transfer customers. I could have a customer that goes from Main Street to Elm Street. I move the balance and the deposit to the new address. So we move the money. And then last but not least, I have a vacant status. So you've got a vacant property. Maybe you're still reading that meter just to make sure, nothing funny's going on. I can get you a report for my vacant properties that have consumption. Down below, I've got customer ID. Notice how they're the owner and the occupant. That's a typical scenario. If I uncheck one of these, I can see I'm going to send the bill to the renter, but I know who the owner is. I might even want to send the owner, a copy of the delinquent notice or the bill. Or I might have a different scenario where I'm going to send the bill to the owner, but I might need to know who's the occupant. Everybody can get a copy. And the third option is you literally have three people. Somebody outside of town is responsible. You have owners and occupants. Everybody can get a copy, but we can track those different people tied to that property. Now you can also have primary and secondary addresses. Notice where it says paper bill. So if they sign up to get their bill email, it unchecks paper. We move it to e-bill and we store their email address. It's an interactive process. You know at any point how many you've got signed up, and all of a sudden you're saving a lot of money because you're not printing and mailing and doing postage. We do have the ability to draft payments, and it's really nice because it automatically drafts it. The system creates a batch of payments, and your customers still get a bill, but it says don't pay. So everybody's happy, and those customers are perfect for, to sign them up to get an e-bill since they are paying electronically. Now, metered services, I can have unlimited. In this example, I've got one, I'm billing water, but I might have water, gas, electric, or maybe I've got 5 water meters at this one address. I can track them, each one separately, different meter IDs. So I can track all that, number of dials, so that I know that information. Now, non-metered, your sewer, your garbage, we can base it on a metered service. They can all have different rates for the different containers. And I might want to point out, we work with a very long list of satellite and radio read solutions. So if you get your readings electronic, I also have unlimited non-recurring charges, turn-ons, turn-offs, bad checks. We can bill it, we can account for it, and keep in mind we're going to tell the general ledger. You can have as many different deposits. You can have one deposit, you can have multiple deposits. You can refund the deposits when they final, or you can refund it based on what you consider to be good payment history. I have a tab for other information. There are 15 user definable fields that you can set up to track, additional information. We have actions. Actions can be things like maybe you had just disconnect them. I can automatically create an action the date they were disconnected, or they gave you a bad check, we'll create an action, or they're on your extension list, we'll automatically create an action. You can set up other events where you give it a code, you timestamp it, and then you've got unlimited text to describe it so you can see that information. So it's just a great place to do notes. And then you can have attachments just like you've seen in the other products. Anything you can attach in an email, you can attach here. Maybe they damaged a meter, you took a picture. They filled out an application, you can attach it. Or they sent you a letter, you might want to attach it. So all of those things can be attached, and you'll know visually that you've got those attachments. Now, if the customer calls, I can go right to their inquiry from this screen. I can also go another way. And our goal here is on one screen to be able to answer all of the calls you get. So one example may be, what do I owe you? This will give you the balance. It even ages the balance. There may be a question about a specific bill. So I can see here the date of all the billings, the balance, any payments or credits, a breakdown for all the different charges. I could pick any one of these and I could reprint any bill. I could hand it to them or I could email it. So all of those bills are able to be reprinted. Now, more than likely, they're going to have very specific questions. Maybe the question is, why is my water so high? So I can strip out and look at just when I've billed water, the dates, the amounts. I can see the balance. I can see the reading. Is it an actual or an estimate? The date of the reading and the consumption. So I can look at very specific service information, or maybe I want to look at just payments, and I could double click on any payment and see how that payment was applied. So I can look at very specific things or I can look at all things. I have the ability to print their history for forever, if I go ahead and print it now, or a specific date range. So once again, hopefully all those questions can be answered. If there are service orders, we're going to know that here. I've got a summary view. If I want to see detailed information, I just double click. It takes me to the specific detail. Who called? What did they say? What did we do? So you've got all the updated information on all those different service requests right here. Now, one other thing I want to point out is we're going to ask you in the setup if you like Google Maps or Yahoo Maps, and you simply can hit display map, and we're going to take you directly to that address. So that's just built in automatically, and you just let us know what your preference is. So those are things you might do daily, in maintaining the customer. If you've got meters that go bad in the middle of the month, I can take out the old, set the new, and I'm going to have consumption on both meters. It'll do that automatically. I have lots of ways to get readings keyed in. As I mentioned, we've got a very long list of radio reads and automated type solutions that we work with, satellites. We're constantly adding. So as these vendors are constantly upgrading their system, we try to keep the latest and greatest here. So we can do it electronically. You can also, we do produce a meter readers list. You can key in those readings manually, or maybe one route you can, the rest are automated. Both scenarios we handle. I even have the ability to do a mass estimate. Let's say the system's not working this month, I've still got to get the bills out. I can do an estimate for everybody. Now, we've talked about different ways to get payments into the system. We talked about payments at the front counter. We talked about payments being drafted. We talked about payments on your website. Those are all automated ways. You probably still get a lot of checks in the mail, and we have an easy way to batch those payments in. So, the one thing that you might want to do is you can even print a barcode on the bill and scan it in. Once you type in the account number or you look it up if you don't know it, we're going to bring in the balance. So literally the only thing that you might want to do if they're paying 100% is type in the check number. So it's really fast and really easy. Now, we know they don't always do it correctly. Let's say in this example, they pay 143, they drop off the 7 cents, or maybe they round up. We handle that overpayment and underpayment automatically. So you've defined where that goes. So you don't have to worry about chasing those pennies. We'll put it in the right account for you, and we'll tell the general ledger. So that's fast and easy as well. We do have the ability, if you need to reverse a payment, let's say as an example, the check bounced. If I know the number, I type it in. If not, I can look it up. So I'm just going to grab one here since I don't know my account numbers, and it's going to give me the option to reverse any payment. So I can pick the one, it's going to put the dollars back out there. At the same time, I'm going to hit them with an NSF fee of $35, and I'm going to create an action of bad check. So then I can have a warning if they come in or they mail in a check, don't accept it, and I can tell the general ledger. So all in one step, we did a lot of different things for you. So and that's usually the biggest headache when you've got two different systems is when you reverse over here, you don't always tell the accounting system, so you kind of get out of sync. With us, we're very tightly integrated. Now, let's take a look at the billing process. A couple of key features here is, you can select who you want to bill. I could do an off cycle and do just finals, move them in, move them out. I can prorate non-meter charges. Let's say I want to bill my normal billing and I've got 1,000 customers in that group, but I've got a problem with 3. I can pull out those 3 and bill them tomorrow or on Friday, but I can get the bills out today. So I can even manage that normal group. So once I have my group, I run my edit, I calculate, I do the register, I print the bills. Now we do know on all the customers that sign up to get the e-bill, don't print that bill. As soon as you post, automatically those emails go out and they're able to see their bill before you've had a chance to drop yours in the mail. We have the option to print a laser postcard and a laser statement. We also have an option where we print the bills for you. And 9 times out of 10, it's cheaper for us to do it, and that doesn't include your labor. We're able to pass on a better postage rate, so that makes it cheaper. And once you hit print, you can actually track your print job. You know that we received it, you know when it's printed, you know when it's mailed. So you've outsourced that. You're able to do other things, and it's saving you money, and it doesn't even include your labor. So those are just hard costs. So we do have that as well. We do a very nice job with the delinquent processing. We can do delinquent letters, or we can do a delinquent postcard. And on delinquents and disconnects, we can do minimums. So if they owe you $5, don't go through the process, or maybe it's 10. And we can also, on these disconnects, I can automatically put disconnect charges out there for the clients, that are being disconnected. And I can create that action that they were disconnected. So lots of things to help you manage who owes, how delinquent, and all those different charges. And tons of reports, unlimited billing reports, consumption reports, payments. I can even do things like give you balances for a certain date. Typically, most systems will do it for today's date, but I can go back in time. What were the balances March 1st, 2018? I can get you those balances. I can also show you who's inactive and they owe you money. So, but tons and tons of reports. I know I'm getting short on time here. What I wanted to do next is just kind of give you a peek at what we call our general government products and the benefits of starting to build that one database of names and addresses. So let's take a look at somebody calls you and they know their name And let's take a look at what we can see. So once again, I've got the name, I can do a partial search, and I'm going to be able to see everything about that customer. I'm going to be able to see have I sent them any tax bills? I can see their utility accounts. Do they have a cemetery plot? Have they had a code violation? And on any one of these, I can go to each line item and drill down and get detail. Do they have any permits? Do they have any licenses? Do they have a cemetery plot? Have I sent them an invoice for miscellaneous things? So I've got that one view, and the only thing that I had to know is their name. So you're starting to build that one database of names and addresses. I have the exact same view by property. And what a lot of our clients have us do is bring in from the county all of your properties. And you can look it up if you know the property ID, the legal description, the owner, even how it's zoned, the land use, lots of different ways to get to your properties. And I'm just going to grab one here. And once I do, I'm going to be able to see everything about that property. And like I said, we typically bring this in from the county for you. So how many buildings? What's the assessment? What's the legal description? I've got information on the structure. The most important thing is who owns that property, because I need to know that if I do a code letter. So I'm sending it to the right person. And have there been, what utility account resides there? Or have there been licenses there or permits there or code violations? So once again, that central view by person and properties so that you're not having to go to the county and constantly look there. You can look in your own database, and we have the ability, each year or every 6 months, you can import in any updates to those properties because we provide that import. That's a service that we offer as well. So that gives you an idea. We do have municipal courts, public safety, and then the last thing I thought we would take a look at is our report designer. And this is a tool that we give you the ability to create your own reports. So if you're looking for specific things, we're giving you the ability to create those yourself. So you'll have a list of yours. So once you create it, it goes on your menus. You can, pass it on to other employees. You can do things like maybe I want to search my long list for all my vendor reports because I can't remember the name. We do sort it by product, but you can have your favorites at the top. I'm going to show you a couple where we've used this tool to create a report to give you an idea, and then we'll go in and just very quickly look at how you might add one. So let's first take a look at, here's a report that I created on year-to-date vendor payments, and I'll show you what's unique about this. One is, you can obviously put in filters for date or, vendors or employees or customers, whatever the filter needs to be. And here's an example. So if I wanted to see, here's this little button for drill down. We give you the ability to have drill down in a report. You saw it in the presentation on our inquiries, but this tool allows you to create reports that you can have additional information. And in this case, it's the journal entry for that dollar amount. You can also create any type of file for your reports. So if you need something for your website, obviously you can have different fonts, different colors, logos. You can even do searches in your reports. Maybe I'm looking for a certain word. I can very quickly do that. But you can have those available. You can have reports that are maybe more graphical. Maybe your board likes to see, charts and graphs instead of numbers. So here's an example where we've got budget versus actual by department for your different funds. So we'll take a quick look at this. And like I said, you just keep running those for the new dates, and you can see budget versus actual and how things, you can even have that at the bottom of a report. But the main reason this tool is going to come in handy is creating your own reports. And so if I wanted to add a new report, I'd hit add. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it payroll October 6th, 2020. It's a unique name. So whatever you want to call it, you're going to describe it. And then you're going to tell us, well, which product. So we're going to go ahead and pick payroll. And I'll say, okay, oops, I got to pick a group. I'm going to say we're going to look at employees. And essentially, what we're going to do is give you a blank canvas so that you can pick and choose fields from your database to create any kind of report. So here's a blank screen. The top part of the report, you might want to put your logo here so you can upload your logo, give the name of the report. But the meat and potatoes is in the center. And on the right-hand side, if we would have gone into payroll, these are all the fields that I have in my payroll product. So I might need a report that has the employee's name, and maybe I want to know their I need to know their email address. I want to know what department they're in. Maybe I want to know their classification. But I also want to know, maybe year-to-date gross or how many vacation days. So, like I said, these are literally all the fields that we have in the payroll module, and that could be a report. Now, granted, you're going to want to have, headings to pretty it up a little bit, but it's that easy to pick the fields for the report. You can even come down here and say, I want a subtotal. Maybe I've got a lot of employees and I want to do it by department. But there's these other things. If I want to insert charts and graphs. So, like I said, once I create it, I just save it and rerun it. I can look at a print preview, if I want to take a look at it, make changes to it, but it allows you to get access to all your data fields to create those. So we've got it for the financials, we've got it for the utility billing, so that you can create those reports. So this is our answer to, hey, if you're asking for a certain report, more than likely I can do that in the report designer. So now that we're at the end of our time, I just want to wrap it up and pass on my contact information. We've been doing this for over 40 years. Our focus is small municipalities that are looking for that affordable, integrated municipal solution. And like I said, well over 1,000 all over North America. So feel free to reach out if you do have questions. And I certainly thank you for your time today.